Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Evenings with Kirk and Murray. As always, I'm Kirk.
I'm Murray.
Yeah, that's Murray, all right. And sorry for the delay there. We're still in pandemic isolation. Turns out the only way to cure this thing is to keep us apart, which is sad, but, you know, we got to do it.
Wah, wah. Some people love it. You know, they're catching up on movies and books and sleep.
I'm not at that point yet where I have all these books. I even put a book beside me in my bed. It's like there's a book there, but then there's also video games and my and TV and internet. So even though I was trying, I was like, I got probably a good couple dozen books I could read. Yeah, I still haven't really cracked into them yet. So that's probably that's for when the lights go out, and there's no power, so I can read by daylight. That's the sort of entertainment I'm probably gonna have to rely on at that point.
Right. Yeah, no, I got you. When the lights go out. That's
so
when I start getting ready for the purge. But I mean, hey, I'm a bit different. I'm working on a book right now, but I've had it for over a month, and I'm only 80 pages in, and it's 400 pages.
Oh, yeah.
I know, that's pretty sad.
Well,
but I also
books are hard though.
Weeks. Books are hard, yeah. Well, the words just start, and then they just keep coming. So it's where do I get a break?
Yeah, I think I have at least I don't know how many books that I'd like to reread or haven't really got a chance to fully read yet. It's insane. It's almost but then it's it is on the lower totem pole for me of entertainment. So yeah, it's just one of those things I think where and it takes it's almost I used to when I was a kid or growing up, I would just have a book by my bedside. And
me too.
There's a certain point where Nintendo, it was hard to see the screen at night. So you're or my Game Boy. So then I would just have my novels or my books I'd read, and I'd read before I went to bed. And that was kind of my thing. And I would get through a book.
Same. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have a Nintendo or gaming system in my childhood bedroom, but I did have an original Game Boy that I would use a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant that I had. Yeah,
you're right. There was it's the lighting situation wouldn't be great, and it's So yeah, no, I don't know. I also was cool reading when I was young. I read a fair bit. And what did you read when you were Did you ever read those teen books?
I read.
I thought you were going to say I wrote.
I wrote the Sweet Valley High series.
Sweet Valley.
Have you read?
Well, no, isn't that for ladies?
No, that's why I was it was a challenge to write those because I had to get in the mindset of the teenage woman,
I don't know. Yeah, well, did you read what was an adolescent?
The one. Well, I read a lot of Goosebumps, but that was before I was a teenager. But the one book I remember turning 13, and the first book I remember getting from my mom was a book that was I think it was Chicken Soup for the Soul for teens. That was the book she recommended I read. And I read that, and I didn't like it. And then, but I used to read a lot of. I used to read a lot of novels because novels were my thing. Because I would read Michael Crichton or John Grisham.
I need to clarify. So you just clarified that the first book that you read or whatever was Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then you said novel. I should clarify that in my world, everything is a novel unless I state otherwise. And then it's an autobiography or a biography, probably.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it sounds like you've read other things where everything I've read is just a fiction novel for the most part.
Yeah. I think like I'm looking at one of the books I read when I was around that age was I read High Fidelity because I saw the movie and I liked it, and there
Okay, yeah, I didn't read any.
was stuff like that. Or there was like this other author. He wrote this couple of books. Like who's the guy who wrote a World According to Garp and A Prayer for Owen Meany? And he also wrote the Cider House Rules, but I didn't know that at the time. But apparently that's like the one they made to more books that got turned into a famous movie. But I thought his stuff was great. So there was a couple of authors I
When
really
you were
liked.
young, you read that?
Yeah, around like a teenager, like between like I used to read like a lot, and so a lot of stuff I would get to read were things my mom just gave me. So she gave me
Like,
these like she gave me the John
yeah,
Grisham books, thinking like, oh,
yeah,
you,
that's a bit older. So like, and when you were in like elementary school,
oh, that was
were
before,
you reading
yeah,
stuff then?
yeah. I mean, I tried reading like Jurassic Park and stuff like at some point. So I read that in the Lost World. I used to go to the
Because yeah,
library.
when you're talking like later, like John Grisham and all that, like yeah, that's like when you're a teenager, you start branching out and reading a whole bunch of different stuff. Like I like that's where I did. Like I think it was 14. I read The Stand. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like
yeah. I think I was too much of a pussy to read Stephen King. So I
50, maybe it was 15. But yeah, my buddy threw it at me, and you know what? It was a fat book, and to
yeah,
this day, I think it's still the thickest book I ever read.
yeah.
But you know what? I dislike the ending. I'm just going to tell you, I dislike the ending of
Mhm.
that book very much
Yeah.
because I got confused by it at that age. I didn't understand it.
He's like
Now I,
he didn't just stand. What the hell?
well,
I don't know the book. Sorry.
yeah, kind of like, but I like the whole book was real. Like, and I still to today remember vividly, a large portion of that book. Like, just very, very well done. But then the end, it kind of lost me and everything. And
Well, you know that's
you
like a
know,
Stephen King thing, right? Like
he wrote the
Stephen King.
book,
No, but Stephen King, he's really famous for writing really well, but then not having good endings because there
and
was
then
a
just
period.
fucking balls to
Yeah,
it. Just
because
fucking
he
take
just
some fucking
his
mushrooms and fucking write it.
no, yeah, because his thing was he was a coke addict for a long time, so he would have all these great ideas,
He's all coked up.
and he would write but not edit very well, and that's why you get 400-page, like 1,000-page novels from him because he would write so goddamn much, and then people would be too intimidated to edit him because they're like, oh, he's Stephen King, he's a legend, right? But that was
Right.
that period of time where he just write and didn't have good endings or did like his stories always didn't make sense because he would just write on a tangent and then it would just come out like that.
I'm a bigger
So
fan now than I ever have been.
yeah. Well,
You know what's
I
funny?
read his
Yeah.
on writing book. That's the only Stephen King book I read, and that's where I figured this out. Was it? And I read something
Oh,
else
what
about
is
it. It was
that?
like,
Like how to write a book or
yeah, like his thing was like it was to because I was going through a point where I thought like well, I want to learn how to write better, and then that was a book that got recommended, and and really you read the whole book, and he's talking about how he came up through writing. Books and being kind of like on the outside for a long time until his first couple of books, like Carrie, and what was the other one that they first kind of hit, right? It was like Salem's Lot or Carrie, one of those ones that kind of hit in the beginning, but it took him a long time to do. And his whole thing was like, yeah, you got to put the work in, but also he was saying like, I think I became a good writer by being a good reader, and that's kind of the thing you learn at the end. He's like, he just puts out like, these are all the books I've read, just so you know how many thousands of books I've also read. So this is what I'd recommend you do.
so
So it wasn't.
it's for avid readers and aspiring authors is what you're telling me.
Yeah, I think I did it
Like
just
I mean,
sort of the
it's not a
fact that
book I would read
I
because I
had
don't really
a.
care.
Oh yeah, it's like it's him talking about writing. So this is him and his how he's done writing, and he talks about
Mhm.
like his issues in his life and getting hit by the car at that one point, and like being on drugs and others and his other blocks or whatever.
Well,
So I just got the book because at some point I remember just having writer's block, and I was like, well, I want to write, but I don't really like. I just sit there and I don't know what to do, and I like put stuff out, but it never seems to. Wasn't at some point I kind of lost the way, and that was one of those things where I was like, I thought some of these authors must have some sort of trick, right? And when you find out like most of them just have basically their mantra is just do the work, then you find out you're like, oh, this is gonna be a lot of work to get out of this slump. That was about it.
I used to write nonsense when I was young. But before I tell you about the nonsense, I read a Stephen King book, and I don't know where I got it, but it was like the cover and the back page were like, I don't know, man, photocopied or something. Like maybe it was a school book, but it was like overexposed and like black and white.
Mm.
So for like a really long time, I thought Stephen King was a black guy. No, I'm serious. Like I thought he was a black guy.
No, that's just funny to think about it. 'Cause he's like the whitest dude, right?
Yeah, right. But on the picture on the back of the book, I was like, oh, Stephen King, because I'd never
Was
seen
it
him.
like was it like in school how like they just like when like you're reading a book sometimes and they don't want to give everybody the book, so teachers would just Xerox the pages? Is that what you were reading? Something like
That's
that?
what the back page seemed like.
Oh,
But
okay.
it was
So
a book. Like
maybe
it
it
was
was
a
the
real
library
book.
had the page got ripped off and they just made a copy of it or something.
Yeah, maybe. Like I don't know, but it was weird. And yeah, I thought he was a black dude. But
That's cool.
I wrote a little bit, like back, but I would say like yeah, the weird like I probably got into like the reading and the writing of stories, like where I'm like writing like 40-page, like I guess that's considered like a short story,
Mhm.
where it would be like me and my friends at some camp with like a murderer, you know what I mean, and like we're all getting killed, you know. And I used to write those and like hand them out, like let my friends read them. They get a good chuckle,
Oh,
you know.
that's fun. No, I think my writing thing came from like I think that like I'd spent some time like away from doing comedy and I was like not doing stand up as much.
Oh,
And
so you were like way older.
yeah, and I realized this is like me in like after college. So I was like 22 or 3ish around there. And I was like, well, this is like the only thing I know how to do is stand up, and I wasn't really getting to do it. And so I thought, and someone was like, well, if you spend all this time at home or you're like away from it, you should just write and just see what happens. But then I felt like the most blocked I'd ever been at that point. So even like, so I missed like being in the thing because I found like when I go to shows or having to do a show, you instinctually have to write or you're part of it in like this like cycle where you're gotta like produce stuff when there was no like pressure on me to do it. I was just sitting there going like, I don't know what to write. And then some people were just like, oh, just write anything. And then or write like a different thing, like a movie script or a TV thing. And I always had ideas, but then I would do this like sit down stuff and I just couldn't put it out. That's when I thought like, oh, maybe I got to fix this because like I think eventually I'd like to do all that kind of stuff. And then it was all kind of like at first like really hard to push out because I just kind of blocked. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I had to write a story once. I used to write a lot, like I said, when I was younger, off like those, I guess, influences would be like, yeah, the R.L. Steins and like the Hardy Boys, and, like, you know what I mean? Like the stuff you read when you're like 12 or
Yeah.
13, like leading you into like real novels, like, as a teenager. But I remember I had to write a story for something, like a creative writing type thing, and I couldn't come up with anything like decent, like because like I had written, I was writing and reading, and I just was like, I don't know, but somebody did tell me write about anything, and I was like, well, what's anything? And they're like, write about anything you can possibly think about, anything at all. And I remember I was sitting there, and I think I was having like, I don't know, maybe a donut or a croissant, maybe I think it was a donut, and I was like, huh, well, what about this donut? And they're like, sure, write about the donut. Tell a story about that donut. And I was like, all right. So I thought about it. I ended up writing this crazy thing about like the baker had to go to the store or like get their shit, whatever, their shipment didn't come. He had to go to the store to get like flour or whatever it was. And the store got robbed while the guy was in the thing. There was a whole hostage situation, and it turns into like a Die Hard. And then it really turned into like a Die Hard type story, and at the end he goes back and makes his donuts. So basically the donut led me to this whole wacky story.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
I like Die Hard anything.
Well, so the block though, like it was, or like not the block, like being blocked, but it was like just any idea. Next, thing you know, you spring forward into something different. But yeah,
Yeah, I've just come to learn that like with that sort of stuff, like I think I part of it was mental then, where I was like, I'm like I'm not quite confident in myself, and I'm not letting the ideas come in, and then you start learning. I'm like, well, there's a lot of things you can do, just like it's just like some of the things some people like write basically by pressure, where it's like, well, I have to write something, so it's like that, like you're forced into having to come up with something, then you come up with something, where it's like
except for the
if you're
Game of
given
Thrones guy.
if you're given if you're given like all the time in the world, then that's not necessarily a good thing. Oh yeah, what's that guy is notoriously slow at writing, isn't he?
Well, I haven't read any of his books, and I don't watch the show, but like I know a lot of people that do and have, and like they're still waiting on him to finish like a book that he's working on now, and then he's already said there's a book after that. But it's been
Yeah,
like 8 years. He's
well, it's
like
kind of like
10 years, and they're like,
his notoriously slow process is why Game of Thrones started to tank. Was like they the last season I think was bad. People said because a lot of the storyline and stuff that didn't come from any official writing that he made. Like he signed off on the writers to like kind of continue on with the story, but like it all turned out to be like the final stuff was kind of like done by the showrunners who kind of just were trying to do their best to like figure it out, and they kind of sucked at it. So that's why like the last the last bit of it was not good because it's officially not canon in a way because like he didn't write it. And so he was so behind the books, but the TV series had to keep going, right? So
yeah, I think this book or these books are supposed to fill in, like whatever they ended up doing. I tell you, what would be cool is if he totally like wrote different, like he totally changed it and doesn't do what they did in the show.
yeah.
So like totally just like take the audience on a different path and then be like, what? People would be pissed, but
Well, it would be
you have
deserved.
to.
It would be deserved. Like people would probably like it actually. I think because that would be like if they could end the show better and give people a better experience, like especially the people who read the books and support the books. Because like I don't know, man. Like
But
people
this is
were
a
pretty mad.
reverse thing.
People were pretty mad how that show ended and like how the like the last season just was like a brutal in comparison to the quality. I mean, like I didn't really watch that show after like the first or second season. So, but like I kind of knew all the stuff that was going on because you couldn't avoid Game of Thrones for like 5 years or where the fuck it was. So,
Well, that's a little reverse, right? Normally, it's like a book comes out and is very popular, or whatever, has a great idea, and then they transfer it to a movie or a TV show, and then but this is like that's what this was, but then it kind of turned into a TV show because it exhausted all the material, and now it's going to go back to a book. You know what I mean? Like, that's very different because most people, like, you've seen movies like that are based on books that maybe you've read or video games, right?
I've seen the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's pretty good.
Classic.
I never
want to be a plumber.
I didn't know that people didn't like that movie. I thought that was great when I was a kid. Like, it was weird, but I was like, I didn't really think. I was like, oh, like this is this and that, and there's a Yoshi, and it's weird looking, but that's fun though. Like, I think like to me, that's kind of stuff I liked when I was a kid, like this weirdo shit, like
It
like
was a bizarre movie.
It's like when you saw like Pee Wee's Playhouse or like kind of weird cartoons and stuff like that, Ren and Stimpy. It's like those are the things I kind of liked when I was a kid. So I mean, like that movie to me, like because I don't think I didn't own a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo. I didn't own a Nintendo console until the Nintendo 64. So to me, I didn't really have any precious thoughts of what a Mario movie should be. I was like, oh, this is just what Mario would be like in real life.
So that's what I mean, though. So you went in movie first.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that movie was great. I don't think we own the movie,
first,
but like
right?
it would be like but I think I would have played like Mario. I played Mario 3, and that was my favorite game on
Mario isn't really like that's not really like there's no real story. Like so
It's
like yeah,
it's
you're
going,
saying
yeah,
that
those
that movie
first
kind
couple
of
Marios are just going, I just go left to right. That's what I do.
well, somebody steals the princess
Yeah.
and Mario has to go save her. Like that's
But
what
like
it
most
is
of
with
the
his
things he
brother.
does, it's like well, this isn't really a story. It's not like it's like yeah, plot. Yeah, you're right. Like, plot points like uh something like the thing happens and he goes out and he just keeps going and then he finally gets there and then he beats the bad guy and you're like okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's I find that you got to be true to the adaptation that you're doing. If it's a book, then into the movie you got to be as true as you can to the book, you know, or a TV show you got to do it. Same thing with video games. I think that like we've seen some really big mistakes, haven't we, over the last few years where you got like really really good properties like of video games
Mm-hmm.
and then they say we're going to make a movie and then they make the movie but they don't follow the source material. Like they're like, oh well, you know, we're going to do our own original take on the property and then it completely fails. Like people are like that sucked or people don't care about it. And then
Yeah, I can't think I've
and
seen
then
too
the
many video
movie
game movies
bombs and you're like
either.
what happened there? Like why didn't they just do the game? The game is an awesome story,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah,
What
there is like an Assassin's
Assassin's
Creed
Creed,
game,
man.
but
Yeah,
like
that's
I don't.
the
That one flew under the radar for me because I think I heard about it and I was like, well, they're probably gonna fuck that up. Because I was like, some people don't even really like that game, so like I don't know how that's gonna have mass appeal. Well, there was a Warcraft movie.
people don't like that game. That was, the Assassin's Creed games are huge.
Oh no, they're huge, but I think like at a certain point,
So like
like
I'm pretty sure
when
they
that movie
made the
came
game.
out, Assassin's Creed was kind of like it was kind of like overdone because there was like at that point there was probably like six sequels or whatever, and then it's like
I was a big Assassins guy at the beginning. I played them all except for like the last one or last two. Like yeah, it got a little exhausting, but it
mhm.
wasn't the game. It was the fact that the first 5 games were all associated and they were amazing and the story was really really cool. That's where your movie should have been instead. And I would have been all over it, but instead they went on an original story and it wasn't a very good story at all. So I was like, once I found out about that and saw like what they were doing, I was like, I'm not really interested in this. Like, I want to see it, but they changed everything. They changed, you know, how the guy does everything, and like they changed things for the movie. And I'm like,
It's
why would
really
you
weird.
change
He just
what's
makes a lot of noise and doesn't sneak up on anybody.
it?
That would be funny. This isn't Meg. He's not an assassin at this point. He's just, I'm here. Here's my gun. Bang, bang, bang. See you later.
Yeah. It turns into natural born killer or well, not natural born killers. What the fuck was the movie I'm thinking about?
I'm thinking he would just become more like Duke Nukem or something.
Yeah.
And like we thought a Duke Nukem character would be a better fit for Assassin's Creed. What do you think? Yeah, you're probably right. Movies,
No,
right?
you're right. You're right.
There's gonna
The
be
movies
there actually
came
is
out
gonna
way
be
later.
apparently a Mario movie, but it's gonna be computer animated, or whatever you call it, right? So or CGI. So it's gonna be done by the same company that does like Minions and Despicable Me and whatever other movies they make. Like so that's a thing. So that'll be
I'll
interesting because they're
watch it.
like
I'm into it.
yeah, I'd be like, this might be fun. Like, it'd be fun. That's kind of the idea. I think it would makes the most sense because there's been like in Japan a bunch. I think like in the past, like animated Mario stuff. So you can maybe be more. I don't know, be more fun to watch like that, like a CGI kind of like movie, and then be more obviously more true to for fans. I guess what like the look of it and like what you can do anything at that point. Like making it live action would be pretty dumb. I guess at
I
this point.
think Like I can't even remember, man. I'm like, was there a Mario show? I don't think there was, but like I think Mario, like you said, like they're doing that movie. I think that's awesome. I'll watch it, and hopefully it's good. But I think Mario would be really, really good as like a TV show, like a kids' weekly TV show,
Yeah, they
where
used to have one.
Bowser's the bad guy every week.
They had one like that where it was in like the 90s. It was like they had like a cartoon or it's just like random adventures of Mario and Luigi or whatever. And
Well, I don't remember that.
I forget what the name of it was, but it was like part of it was like two guys who were playing Mario and Luigi. They're like live action, and then they would show the cartoons of Mario and Luigi.
I remember.
And there'd be like a double feature a lot where the
Yeah.
second part of that would be a Zelda. So it'd be like half hour would be Mario and the other half of that block would be like a Zelda cartoon.
See, you just said the one that I would be very interested to see as like a multi-movie trilogy arc, like Lord of the Rings style, is Link.
Yeah, and apparently that's happening with Netflix or something where they
Link adventure would be
well
very
cool. They did a Castlevania and like kind of like animated that people really liked, and I think
that's still going. Yeah,
the same company was trying to get like a Zelda happening. So that's been, I don't know if that's true or not, how serious that's or how far it is happened, but that was the goal. They're like, we want to make like a Zelda series as well because people would really like that.
Well, I'd love to see them do. Yeah, like from the beginning, the Legend of Zelda, like that story, and then move it forward, Link's Awakening, and I think it would be really, really a cool. I think there's some really cool potential for that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think
the Zelda's way more deep. Like Zelda's really deep in storyline and like the timelines. Like you can pretty much plug and play different ideas and things from each of the games, and they're all kind of like similar but different. So yeah, you can do a lot of things. Like there's been like
I just hope that if they do
Link's Awakening was like a different one where it's like, oh, he's just like in a dream in that game, but like it's a whole different like adventure. So you could be like a one-off thing, or you could have like an ongoing series, like where it's like Link to the Past, where it's like he's always got to fight Ganon and different like whatever.
Or it could be a part of a movie, right? Like it could be like within a movie, like this dream sequencing, like you know what I mean. There's so much potential with it that, like you said, but yeah, like it's got. I don't know how strong you just think that. Well.
I'd watch a Wind Waker movie. That would be good.
Well, I think you have to roll. You got to figure out what you're going to do, and then you roll through with it, right? Which is why it'd be cool if it was a TV show, like almost like, but like I would do live action because I want to see that, almost like The Witcher now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think someone made a fan thing of that once, and I think they were thinking about doing that. But the last thing I heard was that like the similar show to the Castlevania one, which that'd be cool, just because like I don't think like Nintendo is really that interested in like going live action with stuff like that, considering what happened with Mario. So like with their properties, like, so they're still. I think like
crazy.
Yeah, so I think for what they do with their property is kind of like more guarded. So they would probably look at it going, well, we can kind of imagine better what it would look like as a cartoon, and it's less like I don't know, less to lose by doing something like that. Like less probably less finances or whatever you put behind it, like less to lose. So
yeah, no, I got you. I'm just saying what I would like to see because
there is going to be a new Lord of the Rings, though, apparently, or like a series that's like Amazon, which is apparently paid like already $1 billion for or something stupid like that.
I was not a big fan of the first one, like the original Lord of the Rings. I mean, I'll watch it because, like, I watched the first trilogy of movies. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, man.
It's not your jam. That's fine.
I just I get it. It was cool, like enough. But I mean,
yeah. Do you know what's a good jam of a movie? I'm not sure if you know this, but there's this movie from 1994 called
Clueless?
No, 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 no. That's from 95.
Oh, oh.
I don't know, but it's the movie is
Why do you know that? Why do you know
is
Clueless is 95?
dude. I haven't looked that up for sure, but like I only know that that's the movie my sister and I watched the most together. Yeah, it's from 1995. I was correct. So there you go. It's my Clueless. You could ask me any question about Clueless, but that's not why we're here today. But
Well, isn't there a guy? Isn't there some? Does somebody have a? No, never mind.
so the movie I wanted to talk about is Airheads from 1994, starring Brendan Fraser, Adam Sandler, and Steve Buscemi as uh, the I guess the titular Airheads, and their
Yeah,
and
it's
their
such a classic.
and their band, the Lone what?
The Lone Rangers.
How is that possible? Do they know that the Lone Ranger is supposed to be just one person?
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
I don't know.
I think all three of
curious.
them are the Lone Rangers.
I get it. All right. So
That's it. Yeah, that's a good part
we
of the
both
movie too.
we both sat down and we both watched this movie separately, of course, because we're still following pandemic protocol here. But what did you think about this movie?
Well, I've always liked this movie. This movie's it's a fun. I find it to just be from the beginning to the end, just a fun time.
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones where I was watching it and going like, this kind of gives me a good feeling. It's one of those like,
Yeah.
it's one of those comedies. Doesn't take itself too seriously. It's kind of light. It's pretty silly at some points, but like,
It's very not. It doesn't take itself seriously at all, and it doesn't. It's not teaching you anything. There's no social commentary, I think, in the movie.
I think the only social commentary is maybe near the end when Steve Buscemi's characters they're all playing a show in a prison. I don't want to go too far ahead, but he starts to do a little, and it's a prison for men. Don't forget, all men there.
No, that's
And he
not
starts
social commentary. That's
and he starts to hump his guitar midair, just humping away. And Adam Sandler lets him know, hey, probably not a good idea. And I think,
doing? He's like,
what are you doing? And he's like, oh, you're in prison still, you know? Like, so I think that was just saying, so that was saying something, but maybe not the social commentary where you really can't connect fully on that. But, you know.
I think if there was social commentary, it had to do with the music industry being kind of sleazy or
Kind of
hungry. Like they'll just use you for your for what you can do for them, right? Where I think that's the only thing I took out of that was that, but everything else, like I don't know if there's any commentary. Like you said, it's like you feel good watching it. Like,
yeah, it's one of those ones where like when I watch like Happy Gilmore, another like Adam Sandler movie, it's just like from beginning to end, there's just all these great scenes kind of strung together. There isn't a lot to say, but like it's like a fun time, you know.
there's nothing I would say that I dislike about the movie where I'm like, oh.
Mhm.
This is where it drags. Like I'm always like,
can I make one thing I think I wrote down as a note for something I don't like about the movie that I find kind of lame?
What?
Is that for a movie that's supposed to be about good rock music and like bands from that scene of making good like honest rock music, this movie doesn't have very good music in it at all.
Well, they probably couldn't get the rights.
Yeah, it just needs like a Welcome to the Jungle moment or something.
It's
just one of those. It's just one of those movies where I think what would take it over the top would be like some like actual like good Van Halen or Motley, because it's Los Angeles, like Motley Crue, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, like that kind of stuff is what this band is kind of representing, right? Like they're like this, like the not that they're skeezy, but that kind of like skeezy LA rock scene, right? Like where
I
it's
think they're
like,
supposed to be, but I think part of it is that like that scene is starting to go a little bit. Like that's kind of what I felt.
yeah, they also mentioned
Like he's
they were,
hanging on, and it's
yeah,
like
but they also
evolved.
mentioned something about like one point a guy called into the radio and he's like, "Can you play like I think it was like Soundgarden or something like uh grunge?" And then like Brendan Fraser's like, "Oh, you like that Seattle bullshit?" And this is
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
1994 when that's the most popular music on the planet. Right? So yeah, it's kind of like it is showing that they are a little bit out of touch, and they're making a reel to reel in
No, yeah, exactly.
the era of CDs of all things. But yeah, the main story of this movie is that there's the three friends who are in a band together. Brendan Fraser's the lead singer. And he's friends with brothers. Adam Sandler, who's a drummer, and then his brother is sorry, who's the other guy? Sorry. Uh,
Rob Schneider.
oh no, sorry, it's Steve Buscemi. So Steve Buscemi is
Steve
is
Buscemi.
Rex. He's the brother of Adam Sandler, and they're all like trying to get a record deal, and they find out the best way to maybe get a record deal is to get their tape played on the radio. For some reason, they have like little like toy guns that look like maybe too realistic, and so they have them on their persons. They go get into a radio station. They're kind of cool about it at first. They're just like, "Hey man, you're the DJ. Play our stuff." And the guy's like basically like, "Get out of here, I don't really care about this." And then they kind of this is like their breaking point because they've been through like the ringer of been like no one gives us a chance, and then so they pull like the fake guns on the DJ and then basically essentially take hostage the whole radio station and people in there, and then the movie takes off from there.
Yeah, and I think that the setup is pretty good. Like, you know, his girl. Well, what about like where he pretends to be what is it, UPS delivery driver, and he sneaks into the record studio to try to give his demo tape to like an executive?
The funny thing about that is that when the security guy calls him in for that, he's like, "That guy pretending to be a UPS driver is here again,"
Yeah,
which means
exactly.
he's so dumb to use the same disguise twice
Yeah,
or
he's at it
more. You know,
again. Yep,
like
and
he could
he
have just
gets
walked
in.
in like himself at that point.
Well, I thought it was pretty funny, and then what I like is that whole scene happens, and then he goes home and he's chilling, and his girlfriend comes home, who I guess has a job, right? She's supporting him, and she's pissed, and she's throwing stuff and telling him off. That's a funny scene. And then
You know
he's
what's
like,
weird about that is that like there's some point where it seems like I forget what happens, but in that scene where like he's kind of a piece of shit, right? But then
yeah, he's being a bit of a dick. Yeah.
but she has some really fast turn to kick him out at that point. Like I was watching that, it made sense when I first saw this as a kid, but it's something to do with her makeup. Like her makeup fell in the toilet that he did, and then like she has like every reason to hate this guy at this point. But I think that's the one thing that puts her over the top.
Yeah, he
Right.
did something to her makeup, and now, yeah, he ruined her shit.
Yeah, and it was like it seemed like at that point, like it seemed on par with him being a shitty boyfriend. So I just didn't see the main reason why. I get it; they had to push the story forward, but all of a sudden she seems to really just freak out on him and like kick him in the nuts, like you know.
Well, it seems like they've been together, and like she's trying to like get like she wants him to like get a job, like be a
But he
and
almost
he's
tricks her into
clinging
thinking he
on.
got a record contract. She's like, "No, I talked to the guy."
Oh no, he said he had a meeting.
Oh, meeting. Yeah, yeah. That was guy
You
was
know,
like,
you
"Oh,
won't believe where I was. I was down at blah blah blah.
yeah."
I had a
And she
meeting today, and she's like, "What? How'd it go?" He's like, "Oh, pretty good."
she
Meanwhile,
almost
his meeting
blew
is
it.
him sneaking into the building and getting thrown out.
Mhm.
But I found that whole scene pretty funny, and she's over the top. I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
she's
she's the best
definitely like
actress in the world, but
well, she seems like a hard on her sleeve type person. So it seemed like she's kind of like someone who would just get upset, you know? So he kind of like, I think he tested her too much and she just broke him finally. But
and
it's
I
for the,
think there's truth to that. I think there's a lot of people out there that probably can relate to that whole situation.
Mhm.
So I don't mind it. I don't mind how that put him kind of in that position where now he's lost the only thing that he really has. And, he goes to see his buddies, and his buddies are kind of like just stringing, like they're not really successful people either. And they're kind of down as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I felt
this
the worst.
idea,
I worst now for Steve Buscemi because as a kid, I was like, "Oh, it's cool. He works at a toy store and he gets to play with toys." But I didn't really realize how sad that is as a grown man that you work like retail, so, like in a toy department, and then your boss basically is like a teenage kid.
doesn't he tell his boss off? He tells his boss off, right?
Well, it's like one of those guys who's like kind of thinks he's the boss, right? Where he's like, not the boss, but like he's like the shift supervisor, that kind of shit. So
Yeah,
like, and
that's
it's,
funny. But then he's got like a weird fascination with like fake guns, like
mhm,
or
yeah.
water guns or fake guns or whatever, and he's got a whole like
Well, he was
display
hoarding
of
them.
them.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
hoarding all the ones that were too realistic. And those were the ones they used to knock, not knock over the radio station, but like to hold up the station. Because they had a whole battalion of guns that were too realistic to put on the shelf. They were like, Uzis and stuff.
yeah, I thought that was. I mean, they needed a way to get fake weapons into their hands without like having them really kind of go out and have like a sinister
Mhm.
idea behind it, other than like, well, these are readily available right here, and then
Yeah,
like,
because it's
you
almost
know,
like they're dumb. They just do this by mistake. It wasn't their intention to even use the guns in any way going in. It was kind of like
well,
shit they
they
just
took
had.
them,
But
you know.
I don't think that they had any intention. It seemed like they just wanted to get into the radio station. It wasn't like they were just that dumb to be like, okay, well, like we kind of pushed our back against the wall, so now we're forced in a situation where we're gonna do this. But they really just went in and going like, we're just gonna get inside somehow, and we're gonna give them the tape, and they're gonna play it, and that's what I think they just thought, and that it would be like how they were hoping it was gonna go.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's kind of, and then it escalated and everything like that. But it it made sense. Like I liked I liked all that. I liked how you just see the progression of them being stupid. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
they may come up with an idea, and you're like, oh God, this is not gonna go well for you. Like, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like everything until obviously they take over the radio station, and it it degrades from there into like a hostage situation.
And
But
the hostage main sergeant is guy in charge is Ernie Hudson, Ghostbuster.
oh, the police guy, yeah, it's a nice little touch having him in there.
Yeah, did you notice the first cop they show in the movie is like Adam Sandler's friend, the guy Alan Carville, who's always in
Sure
his
did,
movies?
of course.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have noticed that until now. I think I was like, I don't know if I know because I was like one of those things where I never really paid attention to that character. It's like
Oh,
you
I
see him,
never.
for 2 seconds and he's kind of far away, and then eventually you see him like for like a split second where he actually talks to Ernie Hudson, and then after that he's just gone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't have known when I saw the movie originally that who he was,
Yeah, I think
but
I saw this like maybe 3-4 years ago. I decided to rewatch it, and it was one of those scenes where I think like I never really would have clued in. I was just this time I was just like paying attention to everything going on. But yeah, it's one of those. I was like, oh, even back then, like Adam Sandler was getting him gigs in movies before Adam
yeah.
Sandler was like Adam Sandler, you know?
Well, it would have been after I knew who he was after The Wedding Singer. So I
Yeah.
would have rewatched Airheads at some point, and then realized, oh, there he is.
Do you know
You
that
know
he's
what I mean?
also the caddy in Happy Gilmore?
Yeah, but I wouldn't like. Yes, but he's got a large role in Wedding Singer.
No, I just one of those things where like, if someone had told me that like he was the caddy, I would have been like, I wouldn't have known who that was because he's got like a big giant beard. You don't really like see his face in the movie. He's just a guy.
I think
The caddy
I've
has
seen
like
Wedding Singer since then. That's a great movie.
Yeah, he's got a lot of lines in that. Like he's all over that one.
But the beard in Happy is I would have known. I would have known it was him. But Happy came out first.
Yeah.
So it would have been Wedding Singer that really drilled his face into my brain. So when I rewatched Airheads recently, I was like, hey, there he is. You know what I mean? But also Steve Buscemi, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, I think the Buscemi thing, I think, he kind of takes some flack for not being a very good-looking guy. But I think, like, if there's any kind of look that fits Steve Buscemi really well that he should revisit, it's this rock and roll look. I think he looks
you're right.
I think it looks pretty good. Like, it's kind of like it fits him, like where it's like a rock guy, like you look kind of like this and you're cool because you're a rock guy and it like kind of works in his way.
I would say he did not have an unusual look in this movie. Like, I'd say he just looked like a rocker.
Yeah, like it seems to fit him really well. Like, whereas every other movie, I think, like not movie, but every other comedy he's ever been in after that, I feel like they always make him like really goofy or weird looking, right?
Kind of like,
that's kind of what he plays in. He plays more into his looks being kind of weird, or his characters are kind of weird looking or disheveled, like a bum or a guy who
act a little
crazy. But he's kind of like he's like pretty much like a normal dude. Like, and I think I was thinking to myself, you know what, Steve Buscemi. You look pretty good.
I still love his best man speech in The Wedding Singer. But
I was gonna do a version of that for my brother, except I was like, I can't say that we got prostitutes. It's like that won't go over well at all.
Great movie. Maybe we talk about that another day. But
that's a good one too.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he did. I liked him in the movie. Adam Sandler was pretty reserved. I think he didn't do a whole. It's weird. It's fun to look back at this because I think this was his first movie.
I don't know if it was his first one, but
I think it was.
Like it's '94. I think he was in a few other things, but yeah, he was like
in Saturday Night Live. I don't think he was in any other movies.
I think he was like in like Cabin Boy, if I'm not mistaken, but like
I think that was the same year, or maybe Cabin Boy.
Cabin Boy, Adam Sandler. So,
well, regardless, seeing him not in a leading role.
Yeah, he wasn't the lead, so he was just kind of stuck to his character. Like he was kind of like
third. Like I would say Brandon Fraser was definitely like, the main character. But then out of like their like trio, I would say that it was Steve Buscemi and then Adam Sandler just kind of there. Just kind of around. Like he didn't do a whole lot. Like he was just kind of part of it.
Yeah, he was in a few movies. I'm looking this up now. I'm like, not for it might have been, this looks like him like in the time around 94, he was in because 95 Billy Madison came out. That was his big break, like his big first leading role. He was in like some small parts in Coneheads and Shakes the Clown.
Coneheads was what,
93? Yeah. Or he was in Going Overboard. That's what I was thinking of. 1989. So yeah, he was like in and around entertainment stuff before SNL. So I think that's why he was in a few different movies here and there. But this is like a good movie for like I think like good comedic actors. Like Michael Richards is in this movie.
That's right. He is. Like he's got a great part.
Like he's got like a really funny Michael Richards sort of thing. It's almost like it's like he's in the beginning of the movie, you see him talk to one character face to face, but then after that, he's just like doing weird shit in like the vents and the ducts above the office and stuff.
Now, do you think that he like that? Do you think that role was like there as a character that was going to do all that, and then he got the part, and then they kind of were like, okay, well, whatever, we'll make it like a Michael Richards type thing,
Mm-hmm.
or did they target him for the role? Because like it's
It's like,
very Kramer like like.
yeah, it's like, well, he was just like a really good physical
But
like
I watched
comedian
that
beforehand.
movie and I pretend like I think that it's because Kramer had been around. Like this was right in the middle of the like right in like base. Seinfeld was huge at this point, so it's right in the middle of his stardom
Mm-hmm.
with that show. So he's a mega star, comedy guy. And when I watch this movie, it really just feels like Kramer is in the studio, like.
But he's definitely got like a different thing than Kramer. Like he's like kind of like he's kind of this like I don't know how to explain his character, but he's kind of like he's uh he's kind of like a yes man. You know, like he's a yes man. Like when like at the beginning of the movie, beginning of his first scene with Michael McKean, like he's getting
Yes.
ordered around. He's like, I need to come in Saturday, and he's like, maybe I could come in Saturday. I might have a thing to check out the doctor. He's like, no, you'll come in Saturday. And he's like, okay, I guess I will. Like he gets ordered around, and then when he like
Yeah,
same
yeah.
with the
Well,
because the police, he gets in contact with the police, and he's kind of like a worrisome guy. Like he's not confident at all, like a Kramer,
well,
and he's kind of
no,
like
you're
he
forgetting.
becomes
You're
the
forgetting
inside
about
man.
Kramer. Have you seen Kramer when he gets kind of like talked to in a certain way, and then he's like, yeah, like what was the guy, the psychiatrist
Uh,
when he
and like
pretends
in
to be Elaine's
Seinfeld.
boyfriend?
Oh, I don't remember that one. But anyway, I just think like with his character here, it's like it's kind of similar. He's like his same physical Kramer-ish, but then the
It's more of
guy's
that stuff. Yeah, he lights himself
like,
on fire, man.
well, like he like you can see it coming. He like all of a sudden, at one point, he's like lighting a match, and then he like dumps kerosene or something all over himself, something flammable over himself, and you're like, and he doesn't light himself on fire, but you're like, yeah, he's gonna light himself on fire at some point. It was just like a foreshadow, and he's like falling in and out of the vents, and he's doing like stuff that's kind of physical, and like he gets like, I think it's funny how much of a yes man he is because he's like, the thing was like there was a point where like he's talking to this like the SWAT guy. The SWAT guy wants him to be his inside man, and he's like, "Yo, so you were a Marine?" He's like, I was an accountant for the Marines," and they're like, good enough." And and he's just going along with it, where he's like this timid guy, but he's too afraid to step up for himself. So he's like, he keeps escalating all the shit that's going on with this other guy, when they should just leave the situation alone. Like he ends up getting a gun and just acting like well over his pay grade because I think he's too afraid to say no to anybody.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. I never thought about him being afraid. I just thought he was doing the right thing. Like
Yeah, no, it's weird. I think
I always just thought
he's
he was just like a
afraid.
guy,
He
and
seems very afraid, but at the same time, he can't say no to authority. So if someone's
yeah.
like
Well,
his
that's your
boss,
take. Yeah, I
yeah,
see it a bit different, but I can see that. But either way, I think he's a good character to have in the movie.
maybe not as good as the as Chris Farley.
No, Chris Farley's great.
The first scene he comes in, there's this like look that what's his name, Ernie Hudson gives. It's so funny because like Farley just kind of walks up and he says something about like the situation. He's like, "This is a 1017 coming in here, boy. Like I know how to handle myself." And he's like, "I'm just here to stick to protocol or whatever." And he just kind of does it in this way. And then like he's like kind of like Ernie Hudson just kind of turns and just makes his eyes just kind of like go, "Oh fuck this guy." So
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Like I thought they were gonna have more of a back and forth at that point. I forgot that they didn't. It's kind of like Chris Farley kind of does his own thing in the movie too, you know?
Yeah, I liked how Chris Farley was playing it. He was funny. Like his scenes were definitely highlighted, within the movie. Like, oh, Chris Farley, but he was playing it like a straight man. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was playing it straight, and it's hard for people to do that and still have comedy coming out of them. You know what I mean? Like everything he was doing was like he's a cop and he's doing his job, but it's funny. Like what?
I
Like
think it
maybe
was
it's
like,
the
yeah, he
scene that
was.
he like the situations he's in are funny, or I don't know. Like it's just it's
Yeah, he's like a good, honest cop, and his whole thing is like, I follow procedure, and he's not like a wacky cop. Other than he's like a fat guy who's a kind of awkward guy who's a cop.
yeah, no, he's following. Yeah, he does everything right. Right? He's
The only time is when he improvises,
oh yeah, with
rips the
the
guy's nipple ring out.
which is great, but that was a good part.
They were obstructing, though. That's what he said. You're breaking the law. You're obstructing justice.
Yeah, that's
It's
see, he
true.
was, and it's weird to see him playing that kind of character.
Yeah, I think early Chris Farley was always, except for like the bus driver and Billy Madison, that one's pretty over the top and crazy, but he always had that like
The bus driver,
you know, like
right?
'cause he
That
also
Veronica Bond.
he has the same line in Airheads as he does in that the good, great, grand.
That's
He
right.
said, but the whole thing is like I feel like in his early movies he's kind of like that sweet, naive Chris Farley. So, and to a certain
What
point where
movies?
his like when he's in Wayne's World, he's like that sweet like security guard who has the right information, and like
Oh yeah,
or
Wayne's
like
World.
Tommy Boy, he's that sweet innocent Chris
Tommy
Farley kind of,
Boy's in. Well,
and then like a
he
lot of those I'm saying a
becomes
lot of
mature. Tommy Boy's an idiot.
no, I mean I'm saying like a lot of these movies like there's a certain like freshness about Chris Farley that's there because he's still kind of in that like point of his career I think like where he was that guy, whereas when you end with like Dirty Work and he's that Saigon whore bit my nose off guy. You know, like I think
See,
like the
I know. Yeah, no, I know. It went different. Like, but I don't even like. To me, his best work, like his greatest movie, is Tommy Boy, and Black Sheep's a great movie, and beyond that, like I could like yeah, for me, like that's him. Like those were great movies, and
I think
I like when
Beverly
he plays
Hills
those
Ninja was
roles.
good.
Which movie?
Beverly Hills Ninja.
I'm not a fan of that movie.
You don't like
I
that
don't
one?
know.
I think I used to watch that one a lot when I was a kid, and I thought it was good.
I remember hoping
I don't know
I
if
looked forward to that movie. I remember I was looking forward to that movie and I
mm,
saw it and I was very disappointed when I saw it. Like I didn't like it at all. Like halfway through or near the end I was like, "Oh fuck." Like I don't like this movie. And I never have. I still don't.
huh?
That's just me.
Well, that's one of those ones I haven't seen since I was probably like I would have watched. I used to watch movies a lot, like in like a certain time period. So I feel like I would have watched that when I was like, you know, around like somewhere between 12 and 14. I would have probably saw it like at least 3, 4, 5 times. I mean, I don't even know. But it's like it's one of those movies I feel like I know really well, but like I haven't watched
Maybe I
it.
should rewatch it. Maybe I'm being too hard on it. Because I
I don't
probably
think
haven't
it's as
seen it
good
in
as
20 years,
looking
you
back.
know?
Tommy Boy is like like it's one of those ones where maybe doesn't age in the same way because there's some movies like Tommy Boy I think is like a classic now. It's like it's like evergreen. It's just like funny no matter what.
I can't
Whereas
watch Tommy Boy, man, without bursting out laughing, like, at
mm,
all. Like, it was on, I can't remember where I was, but the girl I was dating, it was like late, like 4 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep or whatever. And I turned the TV on, and Tommy Boy's on, and she's passed out, and I'm fucking dying laughing, and she's pissed because I'm waking her up because I can't control it. Like, it's just so
oh
funny to me that I'm crying laughing at parts. You know what I mean? Trying to
yeah
be quiet, so like. It's just I must have looked ridiculous and sounded ridiculous because I was
yeah
laughing so hard at the movie.
I just watched the thing on YouTube where it was like the behind the scenes making of it. It was pretty interesting. Like how they were coming up with like the jokes and like the performances and stuff on the fly a lot and like kind of like the overall making of everything. It's kind of neat. That's something I didn't even think about. But like this movie has something I think I was a really big fan of the '90s. For me, like you were talking about Kramer. Kramer wasn't a big deal to me in like in the '90s. Like, but there's two gentlemen who called into the radio station who maybe were. Do you know who those guys are?
Was it Beavis and Butthead?
As Beavis and Butthead made a cameo in this movie, which basically is one person. It was Mike Judge, who was the guest voice on the call-in. So to me, that's like the ultimate '90s plug, or like get. Like if it was like this movie to me would have really impressed me at this point when I was like 10, or yeah, around no, sorry, I would have been 9 or 10 when this came out. So yeah, it would have been that would have been like Beavis and Butthead. Okay, you got me. This is a great movie now, even though it's a very short scene. I'd point that out though.
Yeah, no. See, I'm that guy that Beavis and Butthead. Like I watched or like, yeah, I was aware of everything that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like their show, the movie that came out, and having them in it was funny. Like especially like back then, I remember watching it and be like Beavis and Butthead. Like,
it's a great get, but also like I think it was the perfect thing, right? Because they're like that's like their brand. It's like rock music and like not there was nothing to do with music videos, but it's sort of like this is something I could see them just doing on the show. Be like, let's call in a radio station. That's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like it's pretty much like what they. It's like a good it's a good bridge, I think, because it's something I don't think like you see a lot of now. It wouldn't be like you wouldn't see like I don't know the Simpsons call into a show or something, right? You know, like or something like that. You know, like or like right. It's just like it's like a cool little like '90s kind of trivia moment. Also, there was a Game Gear. You remember Game Gear?
There was a Game Gear. Yeah, that girl. Yeah, she was playing the Game Gear.
Yeah, it was like a secretary was playing a Game Gear, and I was like, "Oh man, Game Gear, that's cool."
That's right.
I guess,
yeah,
that's like a good little like '90s nod as well. Like you don't see stuff like that in many other movies though.
Game Gear was cool back then, man. I remember Game Gear. I was like, wow, this thing is awesome.
Yeah, until you play one and you're like, this needs batteries now. Like, gotta like plug in it, either plug it in or you had to like have a ton of batteries.
I didn't have one. I knew somebody that had one, and I remember I did play it, and he had Sonic, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. I remember I played
this is pretty cool, but
then did they treat it kind of like I remember the person I was playing theirs, and they're like, okay, you can only play for so long because they were trying to conserve the batteries. Like they knew in advance. I can't remember. They were like, basically, that was the only thing I realized that why it wasn't very fun. was like, well, you could play this, but then you get like to spend, like they're letting me spend maybe like 5-10 minutes because they're just like, yeah, the batteries ran out really fast. And you're like, oh, that sucks.
Back then, all the batteries, everything ran out really fast. It was like, you couldn't do anything on battery power. Like,
yeah.
You remember those, like they have them now, like those, like little fake like battery powered cars for kids. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like drive around. And nowadays, apparently they last for a bit. Like they drive around 40 minutes.
They're the real deal. They're probably like lithium-ion battery now.
8 minutes. You could drive around in it for like 8 minutes, and then you have to charge it for fucking 16 hours. You know what I mean? Like.
I went somewhere like on vacation with my sister was there with my nephew, and then I found this little like play area that had one of those in it, like those I don't know whatever they're called, right? Like the little mini Jeeps or whatever. And I just let them drive around in it. That was fun. And then all of a sudden, like someone comes out and goes, "Oh yeah, you got to pay for that." I was like, "Oh, okay, like here's your money, and we're gonna leave now." Because it was like we didn't know we were being. It was like a monitored thing. No one came out and said anything until at some point they were like, "Yeah, it's not free." And I'm like, "Okay, fuck, that's weird." Kind of like a little bit of a money trap there.
So Michael McKean was in the movie.
Yeah, no, interesting something I read in trivia is in the movie is that in his office or somewhere you see a Spinal Tap poster, which he's also in.
Oh, that's quite meta.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's all right. I didn't know that. I thought his character was great.
Yeah, he
And
plays that really good swarmy asshole really good. You know?
yeah, he see it sounded like he's like a sleazy kind of like asshole manager, radio station manager guy. But he also has like an appeal, kind of like he's forced to be this way. Like
Mm.
whether you find out they're changing the radio station format, and what's his face, man, the DJ, oh my god,
Tony Montagna.
yeah,
Tatoni.
they had a good. I like their little relationship in the movie because you could tell like they've been together for a while, and
Yeah.
he's worked for him, and I like that. That was
Also,
nice.
like, I always thought he was cool, and then I was watching this again. I'm like, he's just kind of like an asshole. The DJ was for his name now, but he's kind of like an asshole at first, and you're like, this seems kind of checked out. I can almost understand why Michael McKean's character is going ahead and changing formats. He's like, my main DJ is like a drunk. He's always just drinking, doesn't give a shit about this, like doing the job, and like so he probably thinks, what the fuck does this guy even care about? But it turns out
Maybe.
like. And I think but I feel like the cool thing is with the Tony Montana Tenya character is that he kind of like gets his like mojo back in the movie, right? Like he gets his like reason to care because he's like gets behind the guys, the band, you know?
You're right, he does. Yeah, there's that whole transition from him to basically just not giving a shit, hosting the radio show, to like liking these guys, right? But yeah, I thought that was good, and then I liked Michael McKean with Brandon Fraser because Brandon Fraser's character just hates the guy.
Oh, hates Michael McKean, yeah.
Like he hates him. Like he's like when Brandon Fraser makes everybody sit on the floor.
Yeah.
When they take, and then he's like, everybody sit on the floor. And Michael McKean complains, and he's like, I don't see why we have to sit on the floor. You can accomplish, like basically saying you can accomplish the same thing if we just sit in the chairs. And then Brandon Fraser thinks about it, and he's like, okay, everybody can sit in a chair except for you.
And he's just trying to stay in charge, you know?
But it's just that kind of stuff. But
well, I think like you gotta look at those character types, right? Like the Brendan Fraser and then Michael McKean are like dead opposite types of character, right?
See, I don't think they are. I think that Michael McKean, because he had his long hair, I think that he's just a guy. He's a sellout, right? He's
trying to.
He's gotten old and out of touch with what got him into. Like the guy manages a radio station, so I think like I've always thought that he like would have been, like a '70s kind of rocker.
I have the feeling that he's kind of just like a managerial type. Like he sounds like when he starts talking about, like at one point he knows how to like negotiate contracts. He just sounds like someone who's just good at that kind of stuff and like being in a management position, not necessarily like likes music at all. There's even a point when like
but why?
there's a point where Joe Montana says, "Oh, hey, he doesn't even like listen to music. So why would he have all these CDs in his thing?" So that dude's just like a poser. Like he's just trying to pose as this like kind of slick back hair.
You know what? Yeah, I forgot about that when he.
So he's just like he's just that guy who wears like a frilly kind of like shirts and clothes and like wears his hair back and is trying to look cool. Like this is what like LA douchebags I think in like the 90s would look like, right?
You know what?
They wear like a silk shirt. Yeah. He's like wearing his Hagar slacks, as they point out. So I think he's just kind of a lame dude.
Right,
so like, you know what also is that like remember how in the movie the one SWAT cop he shows the picture and proof that Brendan Fraser used to be Chester, used to be a nerd, right?
That's
and
right.
So like and lame, very lame, right? So I think like that's what his Brendan Fraser's affliction is with Milo, the Michael McKean's character, is that like he's kind of like, this guy's a square, he's a nerd. That's everything I try to rebel against being, even though he kind of hates the fact he used to be one. Yeah. Did I
I don't know about that, but I do
cover
agree.
some deepness to the movie? No,
I don't know about. I think he's just an asshole to him because it's just that personality flip. Like I'm gonna like this guy's an asshole.
Well, he's like
says he's an asshole.
Easy target guy to go after.
But yeah,
I guess.
you convinced me with the. I forgot about the scene where they find those T-shirts or hats or whatever it is with the CDs, which in context when you. When you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Can I bring up my favorite part of the movie that like wasn't fully stated but is implied?
What's that?
Is that there's the I forget the name of there's the main SWAT guy. He's like a captain or something, right? He comes on the scene, and it turns out he's got a rough kind of like home life at the moment. Like it sounds like him and his wife are breaking up. Right. Yeah. He's taking his aggression out on like the guys, right? And doing this like whole like I'm in charge bullshit. Which is funny, but like one of the things he mentions is that he's very sure that his wife had an affair with a pool guy, and it's not stated, but I think that Adam Sandler's Pip was the pool guy who fucked this guy's wife.
Oh, definitely.
And I know it's just like low hanging fruit, like it's there to take, but like it's never fully said, or he never recognizes him as the guy. Right? In the movie, is just implied, and then it kind of then shows Pip, which you have to believe that, like, because Pip apparently is good with women, that there's a good chance that he was the pool guy and that he slept with this guy's wife. So that there's more of a connection in the movie than you realize.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think that's done really nice, where they're just like this guy has got this big dilemma going on, and and it's connected to one of our main people, But that's good. That guy was good. That guy's a good crazy kind of SWAT guy, and
the guns a-blazing SWAT guy.
Well, I mean, it's a little ridiculous. Like if you think about like the movie, like where it goes, and then like they try to play their demo.
Oh, can I give you? You were saying there was a possibility you weren't sure if Michael Richards was supposed to be the character in the movie. I'm looking at the trivia, and it says Chaz, Brendan Fraser character, was originally supposed to be played by John Cusack.
Okay, yeah.
That seems reasonable, right? I could see I could see John Cusack in that role. Like they're kind of like, I think that I wouldn't say they're totally interchangeable, but like I could see him being like a moody rock star.
Definitely.
Like the John Cusack would change the kind of tone a bit, whereas Brendan Fraser I think works really well. But so
the closest for him that I can, because Brendan Fraser has those same kind of conversations that I can see, like from High Fidelity, that you could see, like when. Like talking about music or talking about whatever, that you put John Cusack in there, he could do that too, But I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think I made a few more notes here. Oh, there's so not much to get into, but there's a band in the movie, which I think I would say the movie music isn't very good. But one of the songs I like in the movie, I think is cool, is that they go into a club at a certain point when Chris Farley goes to find Kayla, the girlfriend of Chaz. The band playing live that night is White Zombie, and we see a young Rob Zombie on stage.
Oh shit! I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that's like that's actually Rob Zombie, and then I think looking at my trivia, that was supposed to be another band that they were fans of, but it turns out they changed that band because they were used as the band that was the live band at some point in in Jim Carrey's movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So, and I kind of forget what point that was in Ace Ventura that there was a band, but I can kind of remember like a scream metal band, but I can't think of when that was in the movie. So
I don't remember either, and I saw that movie a ton of times. But yeah, I don't know. What what part I like then when they shoot the Michael McKean character in the face with the hot sauce.
oh yeah, I always thought one of my favorite parts. I think before that is when like he's just thinking about stuff, and he picks up the gun and just shoots the hot sauce in the burrito.
That's right. Yeah.
As a kid, I was like, "Oh, that would be a good use of a squirt gun." Like, I thought that was really cool. I was like, "Oh, finally, there's like some really practical use of these water guns now in the game or the movie." Sorry, and then yeah, that's kind of foreshadowed though that they're going to squirt somebody in the face because like the very beginning when like Steve Buscemi's talking about like he's like how I'm going to waste somebody with this, and he's like da-da-da-da-da, and like it hits the Stretch Armstrong doll right in the face. So it already shows that they know what they're up to. You know, they know how to get those.
They know what they're up to. Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good idea, or that's a good. I just like that part, and I thought it was funny because I think he was tied to a chair, and he was making a break for it with his feet, like he couldn't defend himself. And so he just shot him in the face with hot sauce.
Oh yeah, there's also the one point I think I remember as a kid that stood out to me again is there's a point when like it's I don't know why it's funny, but it's like when it's like I guess it's just like gross looking kind of or just like it's like there's that you know when he's like Milo's stuck in the closet and he just starts kind of just like putting his mouth on the door handle to open it. But it makes that like weird. It makes like a sound, which I always thought was funny. It's like that, like I don't even like the kind of like that, like the sound of a door handle just kind of moving, and you're just like he's basically just deep throating the handle to get his. I still think that's funny. I don't know, but yeah. There's another cameo to mention in the movie is that there's at some point later on they talk about Lemmy from Motorhead. And the question they asked the guy is something about Lemmy or God, and he's like, "Oh, who's better?" or something, and he's like, "Guy's like Lemmy," and he's like, "No, Lemmy is God." I don't know, something like that. But anyway, Lemmy is actually in the movie.
Oh, really?
He's got a very short cameo. It's like when they're talking about like people being nerds, and then it goes to him in the crowd, and he's like, "I used to be the school book yearbook editor," and it's Lemmy. So it's like
really?
he's mentioned in the movie, but also a cameo as well, which is kind of cool. And he's credited as not by his real name, but as Lemmy Von Motorhead in the credits, which is kind of funny.
Oh, no way. I did not know that, man. So, how do you overall how do you like how they resolved the movie? Because like it obviously gets bigger and bigger, and then fans are outside, and people, people start showing up because of the way the situation. And like I like the movie, and I like all that, and you have to like just put it aside and like not have your rational brain think about it, because otherwise I'm like, are you kidding me? They can't. The hostage takers can't just like leave the building, hop on top of a police car, yell at a crowd. Like, the cops would shoot them. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they have the gun, too. Like, he's waving it around, and I'm like, oh, my God. Like, if it was, like, real life, like, this would not be happening. So, like, but
Well, it's almost like that point where, like, when they first came out, right? Where they're, like, the cops kind of, like, swarm them. And the guy's like, no, stay back. It's like the cops would just arrest them at that point, right? Like if they would have had them that easily, they were like, we'll take these guys out. And like, it's like, but then I guess that they're worried about, there's always a point where there's someone inside who had their potential could have a gun. So maybe that's why the cops were trying to give them like the space or whatever. I don't know.
That's the only thing that I thought about is I'm like, well, the cops stayed back because there was always one guy still inside. So
and they didn't know that Adam Sandler Pip wasn't going to do anything. Except fuck that one girl on the couch.
Yeah, that's what he did.
That was pretty
But
awesome. I got to give him props for that.
yeah, well, I mean that was good. Well, I like when what was it when that girl when oh yeah when it came out that the radio station was going to change hands, and the DJ guy is like, and everybody here will lose their jobs, and the girl whispers, she's like, oh, all those blowjobs for nothing.
Oh, I totally missed that one.
About the Michael McKean character.
She whispered that to him?
She just said it. No, she just said it like to the ground. Like she was like,
oh,
because she found out like she's gonna lose her job.
I never
like,
caught that. I just who was she blowing? You think the Milo character or the DJ guy or
Michael McKean?
Oh, him. Okay. Yeah, no, I never caught that, so I wasn't sure who that was in reference to. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the boss. She whispers it.
That's pretty bad for her, man. I'm sorry about that. That's too bad.
yeah. No, she says it. I'm like, oh, there you go.
She just lost some status on that one, I guess.
If anything, she gained status with me. But
she was blowing that guy. I mean, like it's still a movie, and there's like really one standout line in this movie. So I didn't realize the one guy who's Jimmy Wing, he comes in at the end of the movie because they're gonna give the band a record contract, and he's just doing this based off of the hype, not even hearing.
What's his face?
It's Jimmy Wing, and he's Judd Nelson. He's Bender.
Judd Nelson,
he's Bender from the Breakfast Club. But it's funny because at one point, like this is like around the time that they were getting all of their demands in, right? And so this one line killed me because one of their demands was a naked picture of B. Arthur. It happens earlier in the movie. You kind of forget about it. They're like, who would have that? And then there's Jimmy Wing comes in. He's the guy, I'm going to give you the record contract. And then I think it's someone is looking at a picture and he just stops for a second and then goes, B. Arthur, outstanding.
Yeah, that's right.
And that killed me because I was like, I totally forgot about that was a thing they were going to get or that was in the movie at all. So I was like, yeah, it's great. That's a good callback in that and a good line delivery.
Well, because they were going to ask for outrageous shit so they could claim insanity.
Oh, I know that. I just one of those things like I was watching it this time. I was like, it was good execution of like bringing back that joke. And then,
it was.
And then that guy's him saying B. Arthur, outstanding. That's like it was really funny how he said it. Like that's one of the funniest parts of watching this movie this time. Maybe not the funniest part of the movie, but for me, that stood out as like the best part this time around, I guess.
I like that character. And like you only get to see him. Well, I mean, he's there a bit at the end and at the beginning in the radio station or the record company. Yeah. But it would have been nice to see more of him.
He's like a higher functioning version of the Milo guy.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. It's like the next level.
Like he's next level slick, kind of Hollywood type who you can imagine like. Depending where music goes, he changes like a chameleon with it, Like he doesn't
Like I mean, I think that at the end of the day, like he wasn't trying to screw the band. Like it didn't sound like he was trying to screw them at all. Like he was actually like
he just looked at them with dollar signs going, well, he's just like, I don't even care what they sound like. This is like a phenomenon in the making. So
the deal was good. Like his deal when he came in right away, like, and he's like, what was it, a 3-record deal or 6-record deal, and blah blah blah. And we'll start touring by the end of the year, and and it was a good deal. Everybody's like that, but Brandon Fraser realized, like, hang on, like you haven't even heard our music, and he's like, I don't need to hear your music, like. That's a gold record already. Like, just from
they didn't like that kind of thing because they were also as a band. Remember, like the beginning, because they're comparing themselves to these other bands, and they wanted to be based off of their music because they thought all these bands that were succeeding around them were all gimmicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
like that one band in the beginning, they're dressed up like tiki men or something, right? Or there's a band
Yeah.
in the one office that have like funky Cat in the Hat hats, and the guy's
Well,
like,
they
he's
said,
like, you don't even talk, like we're going in, the hats do the talking.
well, when they went to the concert, and then they were like, and the guys were headlining, or I guess they're like, they'd got their record deal and were making some music and everything, and they were like, those fucking guys, like those guys, we blew them off the stage at wherever. So
Yeah.
it sounds like that established that they're actually a good band. It's just they're not getting the breaks that they need, or like something's like they're not doing it, but they're better than other bands.
Yeah, no, I just think that
breaks, right? So it's like when
I
they
just
get their
think,
break, they're going to be good.
yeah, I just think their sticking point was that like they want to get their break off of their music, when a lot of bands in this era or people around them are all like getting breaks because of like gimmicks and like stuff that isn't
you're
true
right.
to the music, and they're one of those like, we're true to the music kind of guys, and
What would
that's
you
not
do?
necessarily. And then that's not necessarily in this reality what's working to get somebody signed as a record deal, or maybe even in music in general at that time. I don't know. It's just kind of like, if you don't have a thing, then like you don't have a have a thing.
What would you do, buddy? Would you do it?
Do what, the deal?
Yeah.
So it's me, you, and Kevin Hamoki. We're the five guys.
Yeah, we're the Five Guy Rangers.
Five guys at Freddy's or something like that. I don't know.
Five guys and a girl. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, and I don't know. I think like, I don't know. I kind of like I would probably say yes, but that's more like, I think the movies. That's like a beat to this movie, is that like that's a big sticking point. I think to the normal person, like I don't think people would really care very much. Like, it's like essentially it's the same thing, like the deal, right? Like you're gonna get to play your music, people are gonna hear your music. You're just kind of like, they're in this jaded sense of like having been through this, like this reality where they can't get people to listen to their music even though it's good, and they're not getting the attention of these people, so they don't really want the attention at this point if it's not for the fact that their music is great.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying, but like the movie is all about getting a record deal, and he's trying to get it, and he's trying to slip his demo tape and the demo reel, and then get the CD and like, or the tape, and all this other stuff, and then it's like, okay, like they did this, they're gonna get the deal, their music is gonna get out there, but then he's like, no.
I think they become
you need to hear it first, and it's like, well, what do you think the guy's gonna do? Like it kind of defeated me, or it kind of defeated. That's the only part I think in the movie that I'm like, I understand what they're doing. They're trying to make the Brandon Fraser character a little more righteous, like not just like for the money.
Yeah, I think that's like a thing that comes on in the movie. Like I think if it's earlier in the movie, like they would have signed anything, right? Whereas like becoming like, they think of themselves, I think, by doing this as like they're doing the right thing, and it's like their ideology changes. So they especially Brendan Fraser, he becomes more of like, I'm doing this like we're fighting back. They're chanting Rodney King of all things. A bunch of fucking white people. So I think like they start to see themselves differently as the movie progresses. So it's like his
Maybe.
Like, they don't think they become egotistical, but they're like, they see themselves as like a higher form, and if they're going to be putting themselves through all this stuff at this point, then they don't want to deal with like how they're making like choices that are kind of like at the beginning they wouldn't necessarily make.
To me, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter how their character arc is set up. You got the guy there, the record label guy. He's offering you a deal, and then you say no deal. He hasn't even heard our music. He's got to hear our music.
But imagine that's like okay, that's where in the movie that's where it just ends, right?
We're gonna hold off on him hearing the music,
Yeah, but that's where the movie would just end at that point, right? There's no reason to have a
Not
live.
necessarily. Like you could have done that. There's still the whole hostage situation to resolve, and like the
Well,
contract negotiation thing, and like
yeah,
it's
they
just
make
one
it seem like
scene
when this
that
guy comes
took over,
in.
and it's like
Well,
he's still gonna sign you. Like, what's
yeah,
the point? Like,
yeah. No, the whole thing. I think
it's
when the scene that
semantics.
when that guy comes in, the Jimmy whatever Jimmy Wing, he comes in and he's basically like the White Knight at that point. Like he's gonna sign you guys, and then he's like, we have like great lawyers who can get you out of trouble. Like Vince, he even says Vince Neil killed a guy, right? And he had 30 days in jail,
That's
which is
right. Yeah,
true.
yeah.
So I think like this is like the easy out in this movie. So the plot goes, we can't just take this easy out. We have to make it a little bit more to extend, make it like a harder choice where these guys actually have to go to jail for the amount of time. And like they do this last thing where like it's kind of like they fit like they put on this live performance, but it's not this. So they just do the whole like trash the scene thing, and then
No,
they
that I
go
totally agree with. I
that.
agree totally with
So
that.
I think like maybe that doesn't happen. So they have to like use this as like a plot point to like we can't go this way, so we're going that way.
See, but
And then
trashing the stage is redundant then. Like they could have just left it, like left that contract nonsense, and
mm,
then eventually, like they're flying the stage in, they're going to do a live show in the parking lot,
yeah,
and then they realize their instruments aren't plugged in, and then they trash the stage, which is great. Like you're like,
mhm,
like, oh, this band's fucking crazy, and then
yeah,
like then it goes to the jail scene and you're like, oh, they do go to jail. So, all
mhm,
right, that makes sense. They didn't just walk away.
yeah,
But so, like, with all that, I still don't understand why you had to, like, actually, like,
mhm,
there was so much resistance to, like, just do the contract. Like, I get it. You wanted to show this. The guy hasn't even heard our music and he wants to sign us to a deal, but it's like, okay, you're going to play the music, then what? When he
mhm,
says, "Yeah, okay, it's great. Let's shut it off and let's sign on the paper." Are you going to sign, or are you going to be like, "Well, you're just saying that now because blah blah blah," So you just start going down that like hole that you can always have the other answer for, and I'm like, it served no purpose other than one line, you know. But that's the only thing I think that bothers me.
yeah. No, I can kind of see that, but like because it's not an essential plot point of him saying no to that. It's like it doesn't really change that other than make him or the band look like more like they have a sensibility about their music or
No, it goes
or
back to the gimmick thing. Like, yeah, it's trying to show that he's above all that. Like, he's not just a gimmick guy. He's not in it for like a quick buck,
mm-hmm,
And yeah, his arc might have taken him there, but I already thought that. You know what I mean? Like, by
mm-hmm.
that point, if I don't feel that character deserves the record contract, you've failed in your movie. You know what I mean? Like, because that comes basically right at the end. So if you need that to solidify your guy, then what did I just watch? Like,
Right. Um yeah, I don't know.
but all in all, very small
I like
nitpick.
the ending
Very
of the
small
movie.
nitpick.
I like I like how it ends. There's that part, but there's like that whole like the end of the movie I think is fun, just like the trashing the stage that they put on for them. And that's another thing that they're like, we're not going to lip sync, but like, it's like kind of like, oh, they still went to the trouble of setting all this stuff up for you guys, So it's like they're still trying to show how to the music they really are or about the music. And then just like, being in prison, that's a good scene. Like them putting on
That
a
is,
show.
yeah, that's a good scene. I like how it cut there, and I like how they were playing. Yeah, like you said earlier, the humping.
Yeah, the you don't want to be humping your bass, air humping your bass when you're in front of a bunch of just guys in prison.
That
That
is a good scene with the,
you're gonna see
Adam
those guys
Sandler. What are you
later.
doing, man?
You're gonna see those guys later on the jail cell block, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, yeah,
Well, you know what else is funny when he's doing it? You look at the two guys' faces that he's right in front of.
they weren't they weren't they weren't about it. They were like, "What the fuck is this?"
No, exactly. They weren't into it. They were like, "What?"
But I think the better version of that is like the big the big guy who's just like give him a kiss or something, or blowing the kiss.
That's right.
I feel like that's the they chose two not impressed black guys, which is it's pretty funny. But at the same time, it was like you think like knowing like jail comedy, even though it's not a jail comedy, but a jail comedy like any other time would be like having some really like 300-pound skinhead dude who's like blowing them a kiss, you know?
Yeah.
That would be that'd be the normal go-to, which is like maybe it's good they didn't do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't mind any of that. That was a good. That was a good scene.
So we have to give a final verdict on.
How long did they stay in jail? I can't remember.
Well, it was they had Joe Montana said something along the lines of like he said 6 months, but 3 months with good behavior, I think.
Oh, that's right.
So he's saying when they can start, because he's talking about when they can start touring. He's like, well, 6 months or 3 with good behavior, and he's like, I don't know about the good behavior, you know, because they're rock and roll. Because he's probably the better choice to be like their manager, though. That's kind of like more, I think, you think about that too. Is like instead of having that guy who's not really about, you know, them, it's more about like the business. Is that they got the guy who's like kind of like. They converted to be like the cool guy again. He
became their manager, right?
Yeah, so he became the manager, which makes more sense having someone like him be the guy who's in charge of them, and because he's definitely at this point he's like all in with those guys. Like he basically helped them, you know, the whole way getting through at some point, and he's like on their side. So yeah, it's cool. If you're gonna give a final verdict on Airheads, what would you say?
Oh, like yeah, it's watchable.
It's watchable. If you had to give it a ranking out of let's say some sort of how many solos would this get?
Solos.
Yeah, so this is like how many guitar solos out of 5 would you give this? Like, it's like an amazing song. It's like going on.
I'll give it 4.
4 out of 5.
Yeah, I think 4 out of 5 is pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Like if it's on TV, I'll leave it on. You know.
I'm gonna give this a 4.1 solos out of 5. A slightly better score. Take that. I'm doing decimals. I'm doing decimal solos.
Bet $1.
Because how many air? No, we should have said how many air guitar humps out of 5. Well, we'll do the same thing.
Say 4.
Say 4. I'm gonna still say 4.1. An extra 0.1. Oh boy.
Yeah, I could go higher, but I think 4 because I was entertained from the beginning to the end, and maybe part of that is the nostalgia that I have for the movie, knowing it's pretty funny, and you know, just kind of watching it again, and you know, kind of enjoying that as like a warm blanket.
Yeah. Know? I think I'm in the same boat because I don't think it's a perfect movie or perfect comedy by any means, but it definitely has a place in nostalgia for me. But also, like I like a lot of the actors in the movie. It harkens me back to those like '90s era, like I even said Beavis and Butthead, and like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley on SNL, that kind of stuff. Like remember, like even like Brendan Fraser movies in that era are like fun to watch again. That like aren't necessarily great comedies, like Encino Man or whatever, you know. They were like
Encino Man. I love that movie.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like those are the sort of things. They're just like it's just like it is definitely like a comfortable feeling, and it runs well. It's not a boring movie. Like it keeps going. But like again, I don't think it's the funniest comedy from that era, or you know, but it's still like a very solid, well put together, well cast movie.
Yeah. No, totally, and that's why I think that it came off pretty good. For like the premise is pretty ridiculous and. You know, the execution, like, think about it, man. Like, a failing rock band uses hot sauce loaded water guns to take over a radio station, to gain a record contract.
Yeah, you
They
can
end
almost
up
look
going
at
to
the
jail. Like that's the story of the movie.
you can
Like
almost look
it's
at that being like it's like a made for TV movie or like a TV show's episode of something, you know?
yeah, totally. Yes,
It's like yeah,
yes.
it is like the plot point is definitely in the storyline is very thin, kind of, but like it's definitely held up by like the people in the movie, and there's like good, well timed comedy and like jokes and like and everyone. I think everyone does their part in this movie really well. There's like very few people we pointed out that there was a few characters here and there that were kind of lame or like maybe not really best acted, but like the main cast is done really well, and the supporting characters around that, like the Chris Farley,
What
Michael
about
McKean,
David Arquette?
he's in that movie. He's good. I think he's actually funny.
ridiculous in that movie.
Like his character is just like he's a surf bro.
He's just so ridiculous in that movie.
I like how he wants
I
to get back
forgot.
in. Remember, he wants to get back in. That's the best
He's
part.
trying to get back in.
He's like, "Oh man, I want to get back in, man. Well, you made your choice. You left." He's like, "Oh no, man, I just want to come party."
Yeah, that's right. He's free. He wants back into the situation.
But originally, he's like the first person in the radio station who seems to be on their side. You know?
Yeah,
That's
he was on their side from the
So
beginning.
it's almost
yeah.
weird that like I think he only left. He kind of like left. I think because he was like trying to like celebrate in front of the crowd. Right? I don't think he ever was any point. He was never annoyed that there was this kidnapping. You know what I mean?
He ran out.
And he's like, "Woo, yeah!" Like he was just trying to.
Yeah,
And they grabbed him.
They grabbed him, and then.
But he wasn't like running out to like for protection. He was just like wanting to be part of the crowd, right?
Yeah, he just was having a good time.
So that dude was like he's funny in that sense. Where like I think that guy could have been doing anything and he would have been cool.
yeah. But no, so 4 out of 5. That's where I'm staying because I think it's a solid 90s comedy that gives you 2 hours of entertainment. I'm not, there's other movies even from that year that are probably better comedies.
Mm-hmm.
But this hits all the right. It's not too serious. It's not too ridiculous, and it tells like a fluid, easy to follow story. It's got at first you're not sure about these guys, but then by the end you're like, yeah, I'm with them. I'm with them. It's okay.
It's okay, and I agree with those sentiments. And this has been the another edition of Evenings with Kirk and Murray. We're gonna continue, I think, us doing this. We're gonna do like a review series now, where we're also in quarantine, so we can kind of watch a movie or do something similar together, and gives us something to talk about. So, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Murray?
No, I just like you said, man. Just look forward to doing different things, and take it from there.
Take it from there. All right, everybody. Have a good evening.
Evenings.